Eagles and life in the fast lane. One of the attractions of owning your own home is having the power to choose and pay for your own repairs as you see fit. But these freedoms may not be there if you're a leaseholder within a council-owned property. In other words, you own your flat, but it's in a council block. The council owns the freehold of the building around you and probably a lot of the other flats. Now, unlike leaseholders in privately owned buildings, local authority leaseholders can't veto decisions made on work done to the building. They can't choose the contractor, etc. Residents who are assigned council housing by their local authority don't have to pay for repair costs because obviously they're tenants. But the money does have to come from those who have bought their own properties. So it's divided between the freeholder, the council, and the leaseholders. Now, you might think, fair enough, it's the responsibility of the leaseholder to share the cost with their freeholder, the council. But what if your bill is $5,000, $10,000 or more? What if you finally got on the property ladder and you get a bill from your council that will push you into bankruptcy? It's what happened to Jamie Harris, who we're about to hear from. He bought his flat in a council-owned block in Lambeth, South London in 2007. In 2019, Lambeth Council said, we want £97,000 off you for your share of renovations to the building. He didn't agree to them and he couldn't pay the bill. 8 of the 10 flats in his building are council owned. Jamie and the other leaseholder were billed for their share of expensive renovations and they face legal action if they don't pay. So he said he's facing ruin now. Lambeth Council have said the costs for this building are high because it is listed. The repairs are essential. But we wondered if you've had something like this. Your council freeholder basically arranged work you didn't ask for and then landed you with a share of the bill because you're a private owner, but they've still got the freehold. What about that? Email vine@bbc.co.uk. I know it's complicated. It'll become clearer when we talk to Jamie himself. Leaseholder, flat owner in Lambeth. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having me on today.
I hope I explained that right. I do understand it. You've basically bought your own flat inside a council block, right?
Absolutely, and I had no idea that it was.
So you didn't even know that?
Specific. No, the solicitor wasn't specific at all.
So
I
you
found
knew
out later on down the line.
You knew there was a freehold, but you didn't know it was the council.
Yes, absolutely. We just thought that when we looked at the deeds and the lease, that they were just the council, our local borough.
So the fact that it was the council who then decided to do renovations, I suppose, makes sense, does it? But you would like a veto at least.
Absolutely. I mean, we were invited to make observations, but they made absolutely no difference. I find that often the case these works have begun even before the observations have been noted. So yeah, they all went ahead. The
tell
works
us
were
about
signed off, I think, last year.
Sorry to interrupt. Tell us about the work.
They replaced the roof and some of the sash windows, some paving outside, and they've repainted the outside of the building. The building is locally listed, but I see these costs all over the country for buildings that aren't locally listed, so I don't think that's a fair excuse on their behalf.
I mean, when you say some windows and some paving outside and a bit of the roof, I don't know how much that would come to, but it sounds like if you've got 10 flats, so you're one flat and you're being charged $100,000, that's a bill of $1 million, right?
Absolutely. You could knock the building down and make something else in its place for less.
So what's going on? Have they not got a good quote on it or what?
Absolutely no idea. We really don't know. We don't know where this came from. We were given an initial Section 20 3 years earlier for 20,000, which was the same amount of works. But we were told that there were mistakes made with that one, and they weren't correct. And then 3 years later, we get this next one.
And is it within your power to say, look, I know I live here, but I'm not interested in the work you've done. I never asked for it to be done, and I'm not paying for it?
I don't believe so. I believe we have no right whatsoever.
So they can come and seize your flat if you don't pay?
I would imagine so. We're encouraged to make repayments, but they haven't been calculated properly for this particular building, normally major works are 10, maybe £20,000. When they're something like 97, £98,000, they need to be recalculated, and they haven't been. So I personally, I don't earn enough to be able to remortgage. So I have two options, which are to make the repayments or sell the property, which is obviously a large chunk of money taken off the price.
And the next owner would need to know that the very first thing they're going to have to do is pay a bill for 97 grand.
No, I would have paid it for them.
I see. Oh, I see. So you can't escape without paying it.
No. Exactly.
Oh, dear.
I mean, that's good news for the next person, because they know that there won't be any major works coming up for years down the line, so they can rest assured. But we see no benefit from it whatsoever. It doesn't. The works haven't added any value to the building, or my flat, I should say, if it's sold. I see absolutely no benefit whatsoever. I'm just paying for the next person.
We asked the council about it, Lambeth Council, South London. They said the essential repairs required on this historic property were more expensive for a number of reasons. They say we've got to replace the entire roof and windows, repair the chimney stack. And they say because it's locally listed, they've got restrictions. They've got to work around flashing, detailing in the lead, etc. Leaseholders were involved and attended contract meetings to ensure they were aware, and they would have had a estimated cost. They then say, last bit here, we appreciate major works can place a burden on leaseholders, and we offer a number of repayment options. Yeah. They go above and beyond the normal payment terms. So we'd encourage any leaseholder to discuss those options with us. So I suppose you could say, look, can I pay it over 20 years?
Yes, and that would have to be the case. As I said previously, they would have to recalculate their terms, which they haven't done. I don't really feel it's for us to contact them. I think when they send out the initial Section 20, that ought to have been thought about. I think what's shocking to me in itself is that someone at Lambeth was responsible for signing off this huge bill.
So you would, if you'd been doing the job yourself, you think you and the other people who are going to be hit by this would have said, look, let's get some proper builders in to look at doing this for half the price.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know that the builders were, they were all Romanian labourers. They weren't professionals.
Well, yeah, but they might have been professional Romanians.
They admitted to me that they weren't.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know. That can be a sign that they're very good.
Very true. But it's interesting that I think one of the people in the building here said, "Why is it the person doing the painting is also the person doing the roof, and is also
I see.
the person
So
doing the
they
scaffolding?"
may not have been skilled.
No, and half of my windows still don't open properly.
Oh, gosh.
That's
okay.
It's been very bad work. That's the problem. And I know that Lambeth have been angry at the contractor, because the contractor has also mentioned this to me. So, yeah, it's difficult. Why else would they be angry if they didn't agree that the works had been done badly?
Thank you, Jamie Harris, very much indeed. Leaseholder in Lambeth. I wonder whether you're listening and you've got the same issue. It's often the case if you buy a property from inside a council-owned block, you end up with liabilities. David Smith is head of London property litigation at JMW Solicitors. David, you know all about this area. First of all, what should Jamie do?
So it's a tough situation. Obviously, freeholders need to keep the blocks they're responsible for in repair. The difficulty with local authorities usually is that they don't operate a sinking fund, so they have no historic build-up of money. Most freeholders take a little bit each year and put it into a pot to cover these bigger items. And then often local authority properties are often much older and tend not to be repaired much along the way. So it tends to be a huge job when the job finally happens. But the first thing that needs to be done really is to look at contesting the bill in the first-tier tribunal. There is a power to contest whether the service charge is reasonably incurred. If the works haven't been done properly, so for example, the windows haven't been fitted properly so they don't open, then you are entitled to contest the cost that's been charged. And
But you can't charge the council for those appearances. You'd have to then spend time and money, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so one of the difficulties in the first tier tribunal always is there's two difficulties in the first tier tribunal. First, legal costs are not payable. So that's a sort of a benefit and a burden in the sense that you don't have to pay the council's legal costs either if you lose, but if you succeed, then if you've hired somebody to help you, then you're going to end up paying them, which is a bit unfair because in practice, of course, the council's got its own in-house lawyers. So it's not really hurting them. The second problem is that unless you apply to the tribunal first, the council can actually stick you with their legal bill through the service charges.
Well, exactly. So assuming you don't do it that way, then the other option is you simply say, I'm not paying, and you barricade yourself in.
But that would ultimately lead, as Jamie has indicated, to him having his property taken away from him. And people have tried that, and it goes horribly wrong very quickly.
Right.
And there have been people who have done that who have ended up in prison for contempt of court. So that's never something I'm going to suggest.
Not a good one. So all right, we're just running through options here. So with this weird situation of freeholds where you've bought something but you don't fully own it, you get these odd issues, don't you?
Yeah, and the government, has tried to reform this through the Commonhold and Leasehold Reform Act, and the ideal way really would be to have more commonholds so people had a greater stake in the ownership of the building. But commonholds never really taken off because it became a great deal easier to set up limited liability companies to run this stuff, and people just haven't bothered with it. But it does leave leaseholders with a lot less protection than many of them think. And many of them, of course, think they own their property, but of course they don't. They just own a really long tenancy of that property, and that comes with obligations, which can be surprising.
Thank you very much indeed, David Smith, Head of London Property Litigation at JMW Solicitors. Just talking about, I know it will sound kind of technical, but it is this thing where classically, under the Mrs. Thatcher plans and so on, people have said, all right, I'm a council flat in a block of flats, I think I'm going to buy this. They buy it, make a paper profit because the flat is worth more than you paid for it. And then you discover, classic situation, the council says, right, we're going to repurpose the outside of the building or repair the roof or whatever. And as the private owner now, you have to pay your share. The council won't do it. Talking about leaseholder issues. It's complicated, but basically when you buy a flat in a council-owned block, you get hit with the bill for repairs.